What if the greatest tragedy of your life was never a punishment, but a rescue you didn't recognize? What if the moment you believed everything was collapsing was the exact moment Allah was quietly saving you from something far worse? We look at the world with only two eyes, yet our vision remains painfully limited. We feel the weight of the present pain, but we are blind to the mercy waiting in the future. We rush to judge outcomes while the story is still being written. And this limitation was faced even by the mighty messengers of Allah. Today, in this episode, we travel back to a moment where human logic fell silent, to the meeting of two oceans, where patience was tested, where intellect was restrained, and where the hidden wisdom of Allah was revealed step by step. This is not just a journey of distance, this is a journey of submission. The story of Hazrat Musa alayhi salam and the possessor of hidden knowledge, Hazrat Khidr alayhi salam, a story that forces us to ask one terrifying question. Do we truly trust Allah, even when we do not understand His decisions? It began not with a journey, but with a single question. Hazrat Musa alayhi salam stood among the children of Israel, the Kalimullah, the one whom Allah spoke to directly, a prophet who had witnessed the sea split before his eyes, who had carried divine law in his hands, who had seen miracles unfold, not as stories, but as reality. In that gathering, a man stepped forward and asked, "O messenger of Allah, who is the most learned of men upon this earth?" It was not an ordinary question. It was a question that exposed the limits of human understanding. Hazrat Musa alayhi salam reflected upon the knowledge Allah had granted him, the Torah, the laws, the guidance, the responsibility of leading a nation. And with honesty, not arrogance, he replied, "I am." But what Hazrat Musa alayhi salam did not yet know was that Allah was about to teach him a lesson that no miracle, no speech, and no command could teach alone. A lesson about knowledge beyond intellect, about wisdom hidden behind actions we fail to understand. And so, Allah chose to guide His beloved prophet, not by revelation alone, but by a journey that would silence logic, test patience, and redefine what true knowledge really is. But Allah's love is never built on status. It is built on humility. So Allah revealed something to Hazrat Musa alayhi salam, not as a rebuke, but as guidance. He informed him of a servant, not a king, not a ruler, not even a prophet, a servant of Allah, living at the junction of two seas, a servant to whom Allah had granted a kind of knowledge that Hazrat Musa alayhi salam, despite his rank, despite revelation, despite miracles, did not possess. Imagine the weight of that moment. An Ulul Azm prophet, chosen to speak directly with Allah, being told that there exists knowledge outside his reach, not above him in rank, but different in purpose. Did arrogance rise in his heart? Did jealousy whisper within him? No. What rose instead was something far more powerful, a burning hunger for truth, a humility that bends but never breaks, a prophet ready to walk, not as a leader, but as a seeker. And in that instant, Allah was not lowering Hazrat Musa alayhi salam. Allah was preparing him for a journey where titles would fall silent, questions would remain unanswered, and patience would be tested beyond reason. He declared, not with hesitation, not with doubt, but with unshakable resolve. As recorded in Surah Kahf, Hazrat Musa alayhi salam said, "I will not give up until I reach the junction of the two seas, even if I must travel for ages." These were not words of distance. They were words of commitment. No timeline was demanded. No shortcut was requested. Only one intention remained clear: to reach the place Allah had chosen, no matter the cost. And so the journey began. Hazrat Musa alayhi salam was not alone. With him walked a young companion, Yusha bin Nun. Step after step, day after day, not knowing how far, not knowing how long, only knowing that Allah's sign would appear when it was meant to. They carried simple provisions, among them fish, food for the road, nothing more, until the impossible occurred. At a place where land met water, where silence hung heavy, the dead fish, by the command of Allah, came to life. It slipped from their possession. and vanished into the sea. No thunder, no announcement, just a quiet miracle. This was the sign, not marked by a voice from the sky, but by an event that could not be ignored. The destination had been reached, and without realizing it fully, Hazrat Musa alayhi salam had stepped into a journey where every assumption would be tested, and every question would demand patience. How often does Allah place the answer right before us, and we only recognize it after we've walked past? There, where the ocean roared and spray hung like mist in the air, sat a figure calm beyond imagination. Not a king, not a warrior, not someone seeking recognition. A servant of Allah, chosen not by rank, but by divine wisdom. Hazrat Khidr alayhi salam. The wind carried no announcement. The waves made no sound of reverence. Yet the moment Hazrat Musa alayhi salam laid eyes upon him, a silent understanding passed between them. This was no ordinary man. This was a servant upon whom Allah had bestowed rahmah, mercy that went beyond human comprehension, and ilmun laduni, knowledge flowing directly from the divine presence. Every thought Hazrat Musa alayhi salam held about knowledge, about guidance, about the limits of human understanding, was about to be challenged. No words were spoken, no hand extended, only a calm that demanded attention, a silence that whispered, patience, humility, and faith, these are the keys to what you seek. And at this very moment, the journey entered a new dimension, one where questions could not be rushed, where truth would reveal itself slowly, and where the greatest lessons were hidden in the unseen. Hazrat Musa alayhi salam approached, but not with haste, not with arrogance, only with respectful humility. "May I follow you?" he asked, his voice steady but filled with yearning. "So that you may teach me from the knowledge which Allah has granted you." For a moment, Hazrat Khidr alayhi salam remained silent. Then, in a voice calm yet weighty enough to pierce the soul, he spoke a truth that could shake even the strongest heart. "Verily, you will not have patience with me." Hazrat Musa alayhi salam felt a ripple through his heart. He did not argue. He did not protest. Instead, he reflected, patience is not passive. It is a test of submission, a trial of trust in Allah, and a measure of a seeker's readiness to walk the unseen path. This was not a casual journey. It was a journey into the unknown, where questions would burn before answers appeared, where obedience would precede understanding, where truth would hide in plain sight, and patience would be the key to unlocking it. And with this solemn warning, the stage was set for the three mysterious incidents that would define both knowledge and faith. Hazrat Khidr alayhi salam knew exactly who stood before him. He knew this was Hazrat Musa alayhi salam, a prophet raised upon justice, a man who spent his life standing against oppression, who could not remain silent in the face of wrong. And that is precisely why this journey would be difficult, because what was about to unfold would violate human logic. It would challenge visible justice. It would strike at the very principles. Slowly, Hazrat Khidr alayhi salam spoke, not as a warning of arrogance, but as a statement of reality. "And how can you have patience over matters you do not fully comprehend?" This was not doubt, this was foresight. Hazrat Musa alayhi salam did not retreat, and with humility he replied, "You will find me, if Allah wills, patient, and I will not disobey you in any matter." The words were sincere, the intention was pure, and so the agreement was made. But the condition was not gentle, it was severe. No interruptions, no objections, no questions. Silence until permission was given, not because questions were forbidden, but because answers were not meant to arrive immediately. And with that single condition, the journey crossed a dangerous threshold. This was no longer a path of explanation. This was a path of submission before understanding. And so, the journey into the unknown began. They boarded a ship, not a grand vessel, not a ship of kings, but a small boat owned by poor, humble people whose lives depended on these fragile wooden planks. They recognized Hazrat Khidr alayhi salam, and without hesitation, without negotiation, they opened their hands and their hearts. No fare was demanded, no question was asked. Despite their poverty, they chose generosity. The boat pushed away from the shore. The water was calm. The wind was gentle. For a moment, everything felt right. Hazrat Musa alayhi salam stood quietly, remembering the condition, do not question. Then Hazrat Khidr alayhi salam stood up. No warning, no explanation. He moved toward the side of the boat, and before logic could catch up, before mercy could intervene, he damaged the ship. A plank loosened, water began to creep in. Hazrat Musa alayhi salam froze. These were poor people. They had shown kindness. They had asked for nothing. And this looked like betrayal. This looked like injustice. Every instinct within Hazrat Musa alayhi salam screamed. Every principle he had lived by was violated in a single moment. And yet, this was only the first test. A test not of strength, but of patience. A test not of action, but of silence. Because what appeared cruel was hiding a mercy no eye could yet see. How often does something look like wrongdoing? Simply because we cannot see what lies ahead. Every law Hazrat Musa alayhi salam had lived by rose up within him. Justice, protection of the weak, gratitude for kindness. This act violated all of it. The agreement echoed in his mind. Do not ask, do not speak. But how does one remain silent when mercy appears to be crushed before their eyes? This was no longer theoretical patience. This was patience under fire. And Hazrat Musa alayhi salam was standing at the edge of it. Hazrat Musa alayhi salam tried. He tried to hold his tongue. He tried to remember the condition. He tried to stay silent. But justice does not whisper. It burns. The sight before his eyes was unbearable. Poor men who had shown mercy in their poverty. Their only means of survival, now filling with water. And the damage was deliberate. Hazrat Musa alayhi salam could not remain silent. His sense of justice flared like fire. And the words escaped his lips, not in arrogance, but in anguish. Have you scuttled it, so that you may drown its people? Verily, you have committed a dreadful thing. The question echoed, not just toward Hazrat Khidr alayhi salam, but into the heart of every listener. Why harm those who helped you? Why repay kindness with destruction? Where is mercy in this act? Every instinct screamed, this is wrong. Hazrat Khidr alayhi salam did not raise his voice. He did not defend himself. He did not explain. He simply looked at Hazrat Musa alayhi salam and reminded him calmly, firmly, did I not say that you would not be able to have patience with me? In that moment, Hazrat Musa alayhi salam realized something painful. This journey was not testing knowledge. It was testing submission. Hazrat Musa alayhi salam lowered his gaze. The fire that had burned within him moments ago now gave way to something heavier. Realization. He did not justify himself. He did not defend his reaction. Instead, he turned inward and then spoke with humility. Do not hold me accountable for what I forgot, and do not be hard upon me because of this. These were not empty words. They were the words of a prophet who knew he had crossed a line, even for the right reasons. Hazrat Khidr alayhi salam said nothing. No forgiveness was announced. No reassurance was given. Only silence. The first crack in patience appeared. Not loud, not dramatic, but real. A reminder that knowing the condition and living the condition are two very different things. Without another word, they turned away from the sea. The waves continued behind them, indifferent, eternal. Ahead lay land, and with it, tests far more difficult than broken wood. The journey did not pause. It only grew heavier. The second test was far more severe than a broken piece of wood. They walked upon the land, away from the sea, away from sinking ships. And then they saw them, a group of boys at play. Laughter echoed in the air, carefree movement, unburdened hearts. They knew nothing of fate, nothing of destiny, nothing of divine decree. Among them stood a boy, young, alive, full of promise. Hazrat Khidr alayhi salam approached. There was no argument, no warning, no hesitation. And in a moment, that would freeze the blood in any human being. He took the boy's life. No battlefield, no crime committed, no accusation, no trial. Just death, life extinguished. Before it had even unfolded, Hazrat Musa alayhi salam felt the ground shift beneath him. This was not property. This was not wealth. This was not a mistake that could be repaired. This was a soul. Every nerve within him screamed. Every prophetic instinct erupted. This time the silence shattered. he cried out, stronger than before, his voice heavy with shock and moral agony. Have you killed an innocent soul who had killed no one? Verily, you have committed a thing nukra, a deed rejected, condemned, unthinkable. And yet, Hazrat Khidr alayhi salam remained calm, unreadable, unmoved, as if he could see what no one else could. The logic of the Sharia cried out in protest. The logic of the heart recoiled in horror. Yet before him stood Hazrat Khidr alayhi salam, unmoved, unshaken, standing firm upon a command that did not answer to human logic. A command from Allah, hidden but absolute, slowly, deliberately. Hazrat Khidr alayhi salam spoke again. Did I not tell you that you would not be able to have patience with me? This was no gentle reminder. This was a boundary being drawn. Hazrat Musa alayhi salam felt it immediately. He was no longer standing on solid ground. He was standing on the edge. One more step, and the journey would end. For the first time, the possibility of separation became real. Hazrat Musa alayhi salam did not argue. He did not justify his reaction. Instead, he did something far heavier. He accepted the consequence. With humility, with full awareness of the stakes, he said, if I ask you about anything after this, then keep me not in your company. These were not casual words. This was a man placing his own presence on the line. One final chance, one last test. After this, there would be no forgiveness, no continuation, no explanations, only separation. And so the journey moved forward, not with curiosity anymore, but with fear. Because the next mistake would not be corrected, it would be final. They traveled on. Hunger clung to their bodies. Exhaustion weighed down every step. Eventually they reached a town. They asked for nothing extravagant, no wealth, no comfort, only food, the basic right of a traveler. But the people of that town were hard-hearted. Their doors closed quickly, their faces turned away. Not a single crumb was offered, not a single gesture of mercy. They rejected a prophet of Allah and his companion without shame. Hungry, tired, dismissed. Hazrat Musa alayhi salam turned to leave. And then Hazrat Khidr alayhi salam stopped. Before them stood a wall, all cracked, leaning, moments away from collapse, without a word, without complaint, without expectation of reward. Hazrat Khidr alayhi salam began to work. He mixed the mud. He lifted the stones. He straightened what was broken. Under the burning sun, with an empty stomach, he rebuilt the wall. Not for the grateful, not for the kind, but for the very people who had turned them away hungry. Hazrat Musa alayhi salam watched in disbelief. This time there was no cruelty, no violence, no destruction. Only effort, only service. And that made it even harder to understand. After all that had happened, after the boat, after the boy, this act felt almost unbearable. Hazrat Musa alayhi salam stood there watching. His stomach burned with hunger. His body ached with exhaustion. His dignity had already been wounded by rejection. And yet, Hazrat Khidr alayhi salam was rebuilding a wall for people who had shown no mercy, for people who had denied food to a prophet of Allah. This time, Musa did not explode. This time, he did not shout. This time, he reasoned. Logic spoke calmly now. Carefully, measured. If you had wished, Musa said, surely you could have taken wages for it. No accusation, no anger, just logic. A fair suggestion, money for labor, food for hunger, justice for effort. And in that moment, Hazrat Khidr alayhi salam stopped working. He stood still. Slowly, he turned. He looked at Musa alayhi salam. This, Khidr said quietly, is the parting between me and you. No argument, no debate, no explanation, just separation. The journey was over. The questions had ended. But now came the answers. Prepare your hearts, because Hazrat Khidr alayhi salam was no longer testing Hazrat Musa. Now, he was teaching him. Now, the difference between what the eye sees and what Allah sees was about to be revealed. Khidr spoke calmly. The boat, it belonged to poor people, not merchants, not warriors, not kings, just laborers, men who earned their bread. by fighting the waves day after day. That boat was not luxury. It was their life. But there was something Musa did not know. Behind them, a tyrant king ruled the sea. A king who seized every sound perfect ship by force. No mercy, no compensation. If a boat was flawless, it was taken. If it was strong, it was stolen. And the owners were left with nothing. Khidr paused, then said, "So I damaged it, not to destroy them, but to save them. A single broken plank, a visible flaw, a wound that looked fatal, but wasn't. When the king's soldiers came, they saw the defect. They laughed. They dismissed it. This ship is useless, they said, and they passed it by. That small damage saved the entire boat. That moment of panic protected their livelihood. What Musa saw as cruelty was actually mercy. What looked like loss was protection. The calamity was never punishment. It was rescue. This child, Khidr said, his parents were believers. Hazrat Musa alayhi salam shuddered. He had seen the life snuffed out, the laughter, the innocence, the soul that should have been free. How could this be mercy? Khidr looked at him and spoke. Had he lived, this boy would have grown into tyranny, a man who would oppress, who would turn against his parents, who would corrupt their hearts, perhaps even cause them to lose faith, that which they held most dear. Allah, in His infinite wisdom, chose instead to remove the boy, not as punishment, not as cruelty, but as mercy. The parents who loved their son dearly would be protected. Their faith, their guidance, their place in Jannah would remain intact. And Allah promised something greater. A child would be given in his place. The wall. This wall, he said, belonged to 2 orphan boys in this city. Hazrat Musa alayhi salam's gaze followed the structure. It was leaning, cracked, fragile. It had seemed ordinary. Yet behind it lay something precious. A treasure, Khidr continued, buried beneath it. The boy's father had been a righteous man, a man of integrity, a man whose legacy was meant to survive. If the wall had fallen, if it had crumbled as it seemed ready to, the greedy villagers would have stolen the treasure. The orphans would have lost what was rightfully theirs before they could ever claim it. Allah, in His infinite wisdom, allowed the wall to stand, and He appointed me to repair it, not for reward, not for thanks, not for immediate justice, but to preserve what was destined, to protect what was theirs. Hazrat Khidr alayhi salam ended with words that shook the soul. And I did not do any of this of my own accord. Everything you witnessed was the interpretation of that which you could not bear with patience. Silence hung between them. Musa alayhi salam absorbed every word. Every lesson settled deep in the chest. How often do we cry over a hole in our ship? A flaw we see, a danger we fear, yet we cannot see the tyrant waiting beyond the horizon. The destruction that could have claimed everything. What we perceive as loss was actually protection. How often do we scream at injustice? A sudden illness, a betrayal, a life lost before it had begun. We curse the cruelty, we mourn the wrong, but do we see the mercy hidden beneath? The preservation of faith, of family, of destiny. What looks like tragedy may be the most profound mercy of Allah. How often do we labor without reward, without acknowledgement, without recognition? We question delayed risk. We resent unseen effort. Yet there is treasure buried beneath our patience, a legacy preserved, a blessing awaiting the moment we are strong enough to receive it. We look with 2 eyes, but our vision is limited. We see the pain of the present, but we are blind to the promise of the future. We judge outcomes before the story is finished. And in the hands of Allah, even what seems cruel, unfair, or incomprehensible is actually the greatest rescue. The story of Hazrat Musa and Hazrat Khidr is not just history. It is a mirror that reflects our hearts, our impatience, our limited vision. It teaches us one truth. Our logic is but a single drop. Allah's wisdom is the ocean. When your heart breaks, when the wall crumbles, when the boat seems to sink, do not panic. Do not despair. Breathe. Trust the writer of the story. He knows. We do not. He sees the danger we cannot see. He preserves the blessings we cannot comprehend. He protects the soul we would lose. May Allah grant us eyes that trust Him, even when the night is dark, even when the signs are hidden, even when the world seems unjust. May He teach us patience. May He teach us perspective. And may He open our hearts to the hidden mercy behind every trial. Amen.